Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another night of shadow work and gratitude work, where we will be talking all things shadow work and gratitude all November long, so that, we can be a little better for our families for the holiday season. We can feel a little more comfortable with ourselves for the coming new year. I know we're all excited about that. But more importantly, just be better for ourselves. Because if we're not good for ourselves, who are we to anybody? Am I right? And hopefully y'all been trying your best to get through this whole retrograde period, because I know it's been a blast. Only a few more weeks left. We can do it. But anyway, so this whole time we've been obviously talking about all kinds of different shadow work rituals, right? And how to kind of work with it instead of against it, make it our buddy. Well, let's talk about, a couple ways to work with them if we have to a degree, get rid of them, because sometimes it does happen. But the cool thing is I'm going to give you guys a few different ways tonight using the elements. So if you're on the witchier side like me, you're going to love this. And if you're not on the witchy side, that's okay, because you can still absolutely do this, because all this is really just a lot of visualization work that you already do, a lot of breath work you more than likely already do, and giving you a more solid way to direct that energy so that you can be your best self. Because that's what we're here for. Be our best so that we can be our best for others. But tonight we're only going to go over 2 elements, because I've been trying to keep these small, easy, fully digestible videos so that we're not overwhelmed like we already are. And hey, this also really does work out for the techniques that we're using tonight for all kinds of things. Let your imagination run a little wild. But without further ado, you guys are probably wondering what's in my hand. Well, let's start with some earth before we jump into air. Yes, we're going to be doing a lot of balancing because we have people all over each side of the elemental abilities, right? But for our earth ritual, we're going to work on a bit of a shadow weight ritual with something super easy. And luckily, all of these things I'm telling you tonight, still very much able to do if you're in Ohio like myself, where the weather's a little interesting. But say you don't have a handy dandy little rock already at home, or you've already got all of your rocks and crystals doing other stuff right now. You probably have some doing some grounding work, some having a little bit of protection work, all kinds of stuff. Well, it's time to go for a walk in the woods now, ain't it? And luckily, there are always a small patch of woods or even just a nice national park, typically not too far away. But after you got your handy dandy little rock, we're going to look at this little guy and say, you know what, it's nothing against you, but today is the day that you're going to represent insert shadow thing that you're trying to work with right now, okay? And you're going to look at it and start giving it the persona of that shadow self. In my own personal case, it is my very unhealthy, unrealistic point of view of what perfect really is, and how I make it so unobtainable that while I look at it as a motivation, I really do, I also beat myself up when I don't hit those goals. So I'm going to be looking at this little guy and going, it's nothing against you, but today is the day that you are all of the shame that I give myself for not reaching these goals. You are all of the nasty voices in my head telling me to do better when I'm already doing as best as I possibly can, and sometimes even just a little bit more. And you're going to let it start to gather all of that weight that you carry in your head, in your heart, in your soul. And you're going to acknowledge that all that weight doesn't serve you anymore. And then what you're going to do with this little guy right here, which I will definitely be doing later. Bet your biscuits I'll be doing later. But we're going to thank this little rock for holding all of that weight. all of that energy for us that we just can't anymore. And we're going to find a nice little patch of ground, bury him in a little bit, cover him up, and ask that the earth take that energy and dissipate it, because the further things go, the more they get spread out to the point that they're nothing, right? Energy works the same way, particularly if it's energy that you are working to get rid of. And you thank this little rock for carrying everything with you as you're burying it, giving it its nice little grave. And you're going to leave that weight there with this little rock. That's what you're going to do. You're going to leave it right there. And you can do this with as many different rocks as you need to for as many different shadow things that you're working on. I always recommend one at a time, because let's face it, it's exactly how you clean your house, right? You start with one room at a time, and even in that room, you start with one spot at a time. Shadow work, a project, anything that is a bigger project, you can really only do one thing at a time to know that that's being effectively done. But thank you, little guy. I'm sorry, but you will definitely be hitting the dirt later. Definitely appreciate you. And always make sure that you show that rock appreciation, because you're asking it a huge favor. Let's be honest here, huge favor. And as I said, quick, easy, and something that you probably already do with other things anyway. Now the other fun little earth idea for our lovely green type people, or just people that feel good playing in the dirt, we're going to actually need a pen and a piece of paper for this one. I always keep a couple in my hair. And there is always, without fail, a scrap piece of paper handy. Because luckily, the stuff on the other side, I don't really need any more. But for this little scrap piece of paper, I'm going to write down a couple of things that I know just aren't serving me anymore from my shadow self. And because I've already said my hyper inability to let go of my perfectionism, I'm going to go with another thing from my shadow self that some of you probably don't know. I quite literally am absolutely sure, and this kind of goes with the perfectionism and at the same time kind of not, that I will never, ever find my happy ending. And I mean that exactly as it sounds. I will never find my happy ending. As much as I would love for to, my shadow self feels like we are completely incapable of that kind of love. Well, incapable of obtaining it in the truest sense possible. So, I'm going to write down a few things that I know keep me from being able to think that way. Just a second here while I try and not be too obvious with my super bad handwriting. But devil's advocate, I'm left-handed, raised by two right-handed parents. Things were going to happen. But I got my little bits right there. And now I'm going to fold them up a little bit. And much like my little rock, but definitely in different locations, alright? Because that is a lot of energy to shove in one spot if you plan on doing both and burying them in the same spot. Because, I mean, think about it. You've been carrying some of this stuff for decades. I know I'm not the only one carrying stuff for way longer than it definitely should have been. So if you're in the decades area like me, that is a lot of energy to shove into one spot. So definitely, for everything holy, different spots. And if you can't do different areas of the city, if that's what you got to do, at least try one end of your backyard and the other side of your backyard, or even better, if you feel comfortable enough, bury it in a corner of your front yard. But definitely, if you're along the lines of me, or even if you're not, if I'll be perfectly honest with you, make sure you do a house cleansing directly after to make sure that nothing comes back in the house. But after you fold this little guy and then bury him in the earth, you're going to let it do exactly what everything else does. Compost itself. It's going to break itself down. It's going to make itself nothing, without even having to really do much more than just let it decay. Let it just have its nice, slow death. And realize that as you're walking away from it and as it's decomposing, none of that is with you anymore because you put it exactly where it's supposed to be. You gave it a nice grave where it can decompose and the earth can transmute that energy so that you can let go of that nasty shit. But yeah, those are definitely getting buried later. Buried. Way buried. Well, actually the paper, because I'm more of a Bernie type, I'm probably going to set it on fire, but obviously in a safe manner so I don't burn down my apartment. I feel like that'd be bad. But now that we've got... Sorry, I feel so much better when they're in my hair again. But now that we've gotten our earth suggestions out of the way, let's talk about our airy people who are more into the breath work, okay? Or with our second one, sound work. Yeah, it sounds way cool, right? But I'm going to make us be a little slow here and do the breath work, okay? So this is going to be kind of an inhale-exhale type of chant, for lack of a better way right now. But you're going to let each breath in and out tell the story. Alright? And with this one, we're going to keep it super crazy simple. Okay? We're going to do with... excuse me. Got a little thirsty there. I blame the fact that this dry weather has my sinuses going every which way. So, let's say that your issue is just, we'll keep it very simple, that you cannot look at your life in a positive light. Okay? Let's just say that no matter what you do, you've got a veil that just distorts everything around you. It's almost like, some of you probably remember those fun goggles that we were given in high school about what it's like to be a drunk driver. Kind of like that. If you didn't have that experience, gods, you were lucky. But let's just say that that is your issue. Nothing looks right. So, what you're going to do is, good posture, because that opens everything up in from your diaphragm all the way up to your upper chest. And that good posture is also excellent for your spine anyway. I should honestly do better because I come with spine issues. But when you breathe in, you're going to say, I breathe in the light of truth. And use that truth to blow the veil. Or however you want to put it, whatever wording works for you. But I breathe in the light of truth. And blow away the veil. And I always recommend doing stuff like that in a very slow manner. Way slower than what I was doing. I just knew that if I went as deep as I would love to do, I would definitely get way too deep into it and totally forget I was recording. But very slowly in and very slowly out. Breathe in the light of truth. Blow away the veil. And if you need some ideas for a different shadow self, feel free to leave a comment below. I'm happy to come up with a quick something for you. No worries. But definitely make sure that you are giving yourself a direction, both with the in and the out. If your issue is envy, because Envy is everybody, but some of it are just a little higher than others, and there's no shame. But if envy is your issue, breathe in the beauty of what you have. Breathe out the idea of things you don't need. Now, definitely, obviously, wants are a nice thing, but sometimes there's just things in your life that aren't part of your journey, not part of the lesson that you're supposed to be learning in this life. It's just the way it is. Don't worry, occasionally issues myself, because we're all human. And that is why I tell people, your shadow self is not your enemy. It is part of you, because everyone is both. But the other air thing before I let y'all go tonight, and don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss any of these videos, is a whisper scream confession. Now, as I mentioned, I live in an apartment, so I will definitely not be screaming, because let me tell you, these walls be thin. But what you're going to do is you're going to whisper the shadow portion of yourself, and then in a slightly louder voice, you're going to be doing this back and forth. You're going to turn it around and turn it into a truth that you'll make real. Like, for example, let's say, we'll use my perfectionist issue. I'm going to whisper, I'm never going to be good enough. And in a slightly louder voice, I'm going to say, I am rocking my to-do list. And then the next time, I'll never be good enough. I am knocking out my goals because I know my path and I know my direction. And just keep going back and forth with that until you'll start to notice something. There's an actual rewiring going on in that brain. There's actually a shift in how you're thinking. Like, quite literally, even what I did in just that couple of seconds, I feel the same little weird twinge right here of my brain changing it. And I did this a few times over the last few days before I decided to give it to you guys. And just, I'm not typically an air person, but yeah, I mean, it's nice. But anyway, if this video helped you out at all, or if there's one that you really liked, please like the video and let me know which one it was in the comments that just really blew your mind. Or even if you've got a couple ideas yourself on how to work with earth or air in working with your shadow self. But until next time, I look forward to seeing you all later, and have a fabulous time working with those air and earth exercises.